All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's going on? Takedown, wins a lot. Richard, paired by Jason, Jordan, Robert, Mark, Michael W, William, Colin T, and our man Wardo, and of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Hebrewcheetah. How we doing on this fine Thursday afternoon, my man?
Doing good. Yeah, got good weather up here in Utah. Went on a walk this morning, got some breakfast. Pretty, I don't know, kind of underwhelming games last night in the NBA, in my opinion, with the Wizards getting blown out. And then the Knicks and Nuggets game, I know Wardo's happy with the outcome, but I thought it was a pretty big letdown. We had so many foul calls early in the game to kind of ruin the flow of it.
Man, I thought it was your Wi-Fi for a second. I even said uh-oh, and it was mine. So hopefully mine, You're good over there. Hopefully mine stays good. I'm not really sure why that'd be. I think that was just a lull. What'd you say about the early Jokic foul trouble, the 2 fouls quick? Is that what you mentioned in the Knicks game?
Yeah, it just ruined the flow of the game.
Yeah.
You had the Knicks were in the bonus with 5 minutes left in the first, so you don't really get bonus free throws that early in a game. And then the Nuggets had the bonus of 8 minutes left in the second. I mean, that's hard to it's not fun when you have to. You're I don't know. Everybody's excited to watch Jokic versus Cat, and then you get to see DeAndre Jordan against Precious Achiuwa. What are we doing?
For sure. Gotta say hi to some other people in chat again. We got a 5-game slate, 2 games at 7 Eastern, then we got a 2-hour window, 1 at 9, 1 at 9:30, 1 at 10. And in terms of the spreads, 2 pretty big ones. The Cavs 10.5-point favorites over the Hawks, 7 p.m. Eastern game. Lakers 8.5-point favorites over these bum Wizards. That's also the first game. Then we have a couple close ones to finish it out. A couple more people piled in. Lachlan in here, Gangrene, NY Stiegel, Daniels, Matt, G. Mercier, Langley, Anthony, Daniels, from Fresno, Richie Smalls. Oh, some new faces in here. Appreciate everyone hanging out like always. Paired by Ricky in here. All we ask, like button, subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. Bringing you shows on this channel every single day. Tomorrow, get the man BJ and Ham himself. Again, BJ Ham, usually Monday, Fridays. Rio and I will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. We have a quick hit Saturday from BJ as well. So much going on. Sunday, we have slate playing and stuff. It's the one-day no-show. But now that NBA or NFL pretty much over, which is one showdown game, NBA is full force. Prize pools are good as well. But hey, don't forget about the NHL streets. Talked about it in depth yesterday. Shout out to Nades and the team. PGA, of course, going on. Today was the first day. Showdown content, always big, though. Shout out GS Luke. He'll be on this channel doing showdown content. Also have the Stone projection slate plan. MMA back, I think it's 11 straight cards, maybe even 13. It's back this week, 9 a.m. Eastern. Got to set that early alarm. I definitely will be doing it. Excited for some fights. Only 11, unfortunately, but Big Marley and I will be live tonight. NASCAR will be back, I believe, in 2 weeks as well. So, again, no better time. We still do have the best deal out there. SHIPIT gets you $50 off your first month. Does include our optimizer as well. And big stuff ahead. No spoiler alerts over here. But big stuff. Can't absolutely wait for that. Anyone else coming in here? Charlie, what's going on? Hello, Charlie. Put me in, Coach. How's it going, Coach Chris? All right, I think that's everybody. Rio, of course, we do have, like always, a lot of Q tags. Sengun, LeBron, Ja, Suggs, Conley, Grant, Finney Smith, Merrill again. Any of those you have a strong lean on? Any broad slate overview, roster construction-wise, or do you just want to go game by game and we obviously hit on everything as we go?
I don't think that we have really too much to hit on. The Lakers game, the first lock window of the night, so we should get the LeBron news. But, yeah, I mean, wouldn't be surprised to see him sit. I think that those guys in that Houston-Memphis game are going to play with it being such a big game just for the playoff seeding in the Western Conference. I think both those guys are in, I guess, semi-big news in that Minnesota game with Conley being downgraded to questionable. So that would add somebody new to the starting rotation, which would be pretty big. But I guess like the Merrill stuff. I guess we'll do that when we go to that game. But the
Is
Merrill,
he out?
He's questionable.
That's what I thought.
NBC. I don't know.
I wouldn't follow NBC Sports, but I mean, I've been wrong on some of these tags as well, so that's why I wouldn't be shocked if I was. But
yeah, I mean, that's if he is out. I haven't seen anything about him being ruled out yet. Yeah, I'm still seeing him questionable on NBA.com and everything, but yeah, but it is pretty big news. Just they're down a lot of like wing depth and guard, not really guard depth, but like those 2-3 positions. They're pretty thin right there, especially with like the backup. So that is a kind of a big Q tag.
Sounds good. Yeah, everyone has been wrong, especially underdog. I don't know about that, man. Underdog is as good as it gets. When when coaches just randomly decide they're not going to play certain guys, there's no news beat writer, anything out there. I mean, I will say some beat writers, I can't think of the exact situation, but if a guy's not going through pregame warmups or like stuff like that, and they don't report, that's on them. But at the end of the day, underdog, like the old fantasy labs, I mean, they only can do with what the information they get. It's not like they're hiring. They got a guy for each team that's sitting at every single game and reporting that way. So I don't know. Underdog is as good as it gets, in my opinion. Hey, let's go game by game though. 5 games to talk about in the slate again. 2 at 7, 2-hour window. 1 at 9, 1 at 9:30, 1 at 10 Eastern. The first game of the night, like you see right there, the Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Washington Wizards. Lakers 9-point favorites. It was just 8.5 a second ago. Someone put some money on the Lakers. 9-point favorites. 223.5 total. Injuries in this one. No Alexander Sarr for Washington. As far as the Lakers, no AD. He got hurt a couple games ago against Philly, the abdominal or something. I mean, this guy never can stay healthy. But my man Jackson Hayes will get the start at center. Always like seeing that. LeBron, questionable. Dorian Finney-Smith, questionable. Gabe Vincent, questionable. You mentioned a little pre-show. You're not 100% certain about the LeBron stuff. We will get it before lock. Obviously, if he's ruled out, that changes the whole slate. I think if he's in, he's already going to be very popular. No AD, a lot more falls on the shoulders of LeBron. Other guys, Austin Reeves, I think is fine right now. Would be a great play if there was no LeBron. Rui, I think, makes a little sense at 4.9K. Wizards, everyone's shitting on Jordan Poole right now. What an awful game for sure. My man Joe Val, people are also shitting on him in Discord. He will still be a really high owned on this slate, though, as you can see right here. A lot of that was all due to blowout yesterday. Obviously, I mean, if Jordan Poole and guys did something early, they wouldn't have got blown out. I will say, though, these Wizards are definitely still getting ownership. Kuzma a little bit, Poole, Koulibaly a little bit, Joe Val. I'm not, I guess, surprised, but a little. I don't think Jackson Hayes is going to get nearly the ownership, as we see right here, as I would expect when I saw the notification earlier, starting center 4,500. So, yeah, if you want to start Lakers side with Hayes, LeBron, Q-Tag, and then bring it to the Wizards.
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure LeBron and Austin Reeves are going to be taking on huge offensive workload with Anthony Davis. Both those guys have been very good in games without AD this year. AD's missed 3 games. LeBron averaging 56.5 DK points per game, 35% usage rate, 46.5% assist percentage, 13% rebounding rate. So really good numbers under the hood. And then kind of same thing for Reeves. He's a 4% usage rate increase, 2.5% assist percentage with him off the court, averaging 46 DK points per game without Anthony Davis this season. Great matchup for both these guys. So I have nothing really negative to say about them. I think they're both really, really strong plays tonight. The secondary plays, it's going to be a little bit tough for me to get to because if LeBron is in, you just don't really see a ton of usage flowing to guys like Rui and Christie, and now they have Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt that they're mixing in, so they have enough depth in that the wing and the front court area to not really make these guys great plays. But I do agree with you. I think that Jackson Hayes is a pretty strong GPP play at 4.5K. Normally, when you get like Anthony Davis out, you're always looking to play the backup center, no matter who it is. It's been a little bit different with Hayes this season. Has not been as good. Last year he had a couple really big games against like Boston when he filled in for AD. This year hasn't really done as much. But the good thing about it is he's playing a ton of minutes in the games that he does get the starts for Anthony Davis, averaging 28.5 minutes per game. One of those games was like an 18-minute game, but the other ones were like in the 33, 35-minute range. So we know that they're willing to play him a lot of minutes. And this is the best possible matchup for opposing centers. So I think that he's a pretty strong GPP play. I definitely want to get over the field on him and just kind of play into the matchup and the ownership a bit. I think Dalton Connect is kind of okay at 3.9K. He kind of got back on track in a pretty big way against Philly last time out, put up 24 real points in that one. I don't know if you saw the clip of
JJ bitching him out.
Yeah, I love it.
But you got to do it as a coach. I mean, like, yeah, you have to.
Especially like Connect is pretty close to like a JJ Redick type of player too. I'm sure that JJ's working with him pretty close. So like running plays for him, and then he's just not prepared for it. Like I definitely respect JJ for getting on his ass, but it was a pretty good game against the Philly against the Sixers the other night. He's still playing like low 20s minutes. And then if Dorian Finney-Smith misses, probably a little bit more minutes for him to go around. And this is a good matchup. Like the Wizards give up points pretty much everywhere. They give up a ton of 3 points, transition points, like pick and roll stuff. So you could pick anybody on Lakers and they'll probably have a good matchup. But yeah, I think Connect is okay at 3.9K. I'll probably get a little bit of him. And then the Wizards side, pretty much just going to be playing like Poole down to Koulibaly. I think I'll keep all those guys in the prize pool, like Kuzma and Joval. I think are good, but I think that Jordan Poole and Joval are going to be the guys that I look to again tonight. Poole was really bad last night, but the entire Wizards team really was outside of Kuzma. Kind of funny how that works, but I mean, Lakers have struggled against guards all season long. No Anthony Davis down low. He's been really good in the pick and roll, so that should lead to a few more pick and roll attempts for Poole, who's taken over as the lead point guard with Carrington shifting to a bench role. I think he makes a lot of sense in correlating pieces. If you have like a LeBron or Reeves bringing it back with Jordan Poole and Joval, I think it makes a lot of sense. But Kuzma's still playing a lot of minutes right now. I think that 6.4K is a pretty reasonable tag for him. Put up a double-double last night. Yes, he's pretty underpriced if he's playing 32, 34 minutes a night. And the matchup is okay. Nothing great or bad about it. Lakers do struggle in transition, so the young guys look pretty good. Like Koulibaly, I think, is pretty solid at 5.5K. Kind of somebody I always have interest in a close game environment, just because we've seen the Wizards really be willing to let him run a lot of minutes, like 36, 38 minutes are within the range of outcomes for him if a game is close. Because he's going to be needed to play defense against LeBron tonight. We saw him put up 36.5 against the Lakers just over a week ago. And then the transition defense, like I mentioned, not good for LA. So that could be a spot that Koulibaly could take advantage of. And then, I'm not going to overreact to a one-game sample size with Joval. He's historically been really good in pretty much every game that he started. So I'm totally fine going back to the well. Matchup is a lot better now. I'm not going up against Anthony Davis. Going up against Jackson Hayes is a much different matchup. So I think that he's pretty good. I just don't really like playing these secondary pieces like Kispert, Keyshawn, George, and Carrington don't really do enough for me. I think Kispert is probably the best actual player of the bunch. But I just don't know if there's really enough upside from any of these guys, so I probably won't get to too much. Probably just keep it in those top 4 guys for Washington.
Great breakdown. So, I mean, Dalton Connect, he might be, what do we have, Matt? 1%? Yeah, 0.27%. There's no way that they're going to give – I'm not even going to click the comment from Andrew Martinez, but Bronny ain't going to get any run in this one, right? That was a one-off, like – LeBron told JJ, like, I know JJ Redick came out and said, like, we needed energy, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think that was a total, I mean, maybe you can, if you have a different opinion, you can let me know. I think they planned, like, getting Bronny minutes in that game, regardless, right before. They were supposed to be Philly. Philly was shorthanded, obviously, in Philly. All the Eagles guys were there. You know, LeBron cares about getting his son and stuff some run. But I think it's like you're going to see very one-off opportunities like that, and he played so bad. I mean, JJ Redick couldn't even pretend he played good. He said he played bad. You don't think he gets any minutes there, and it's so like because if he did, I would not like Dalton Connect nearly as much. He takes away like that's the role. Cam Reddish, how in the world is Bronny James playing over Cam Reddish? Like it's really pathetic. But you don't think he gets any run, right?
No, I don't think so. I think that it was just a one-game thing. I mean, it's also Gabe Vincent was out there, so they needed a backup guard, I guess. But I don't know.
Throw literally anyone out besides him that can bring the ball up the court. Like, that was pathetic.
I'm not sure why they went to him, but I doubt he'd get back in. Just the minutes went so bad. So bad. Yeah, it doesn't matter if Cam Reddish isn't good. He's a billion times better than Bronny James. So I don't think Cam Reddish is bad.
I don't think he's that bad. I mean, he was a hooper at Duke. Like I think if he has chances, I don't think he's bad. But I guess relative to other starters in the NBA that we talk about, maybe he's not there. But How many is too many in this game? Like Jovel, LeBron, Poole, Connect, like Reeves maybe. Like how many is too many? Is four? It's a 5-game slate. Would you cap it at 4? Would you be fine with 5? 6 feels definitely too many, but
I think you could probably make a case for 5. Like there's on the off chance that this is like the game that goes off and stays close, you could see 3 of Poole, Kuzma, Jovel, Coulibaly get in there, and then like both LeBron and Reeves or Reeves and Hayes, LeBron and Hayes, something like that. So I'd be okay with 5.
I ain't a hater. Like I want him to do good. I ain't hating on anybody. I just at the end of the day, I'll keep it. I'll tell it how it is. I'll be real. He ain't an NBA player. I don't even know if he's a college player on some of these best teams. I mean, dude could not make an elbow bounce pass to Anthony Davis when he was sealed. And Tyrese Maxey's great, so he's going to cook a lot of people. But, I mean, it was as easy as it gets. You could tell Maxey was licking his chops, and he got to a spot at will every time. So it's the NBA. It's the best players in the world playing. I just don't think Bronny James is the best player. But I hope he does better. Like, I ain't cheering against the guy. It's just there's no way right now he should be in the rotation. Why we're spending this much time on Bronny James on a 5-game slate is my fault, though. So let's keep it rolling. Next game on the slate, Atlanta Hawks taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Biggest spread on the slate, Cavs 10.5-point favorites. Also the biggest total on the slate, 240 total. Hawks side, Jalen Johnson, very sad news, out for the year. Hate to see that. No Clint Capella still, no Bogdanovich. Other side with the Cavs, yeah, the Sam Merrill Q-tag, definitely somewhat important. Ty Jerome does the job again, even though he didn't start. They started Tyson. Ty Jerome keeps getting the job done. Karis LeVert will be out again in this game. Darius Garland will be back. They're still without Dean Wade. I should mention that as well. Garland rested. Now he will be back today. So I'm going to throw it to you right away. You said Sam Merrill's still pretty important. Is it as important with Garland being back? Or is it like mainly like the Ty Jerome stuff, Max Strus stuff is where it really impacts those guys?
Yeah, it'd be those secondary guys for sure. Because we see, I mean, Max Strus was very injured coming into the season with the ankle that held him out for like the first third of the season. And they've kind of had no choice but to ramp him up a ton. I mean, he was kind of capped in like the low 20s, and now he's playing like mid 30s on a nightly basis because they just don't have depth with Wade out, with Okoro out, with Merrill missing games. So, it would definitely eat into those secondary guys because I don't like the Cavs aren't really a team that loves to play their guys like 35, 36 minutes a night. So, yeah, I think that the more bodies that they can get, it would just kind of take away a little bit from those guys. But, yeah, I mean, it's a really good matchup. Atlanta has been pretty good defensively this month, which is kind of weird because their record hasn't really reflected that. I think they have like 4 wins this month. And the Cavs, on the other hand, have their bottom 5 defensive rated team this month. They've played a lot of really good teams, though. I just don't know how Atlanta could put up points or keep this game close. I mean, you're losing so many bodies. I mean, no Capella, no Bogdan, no Jalen Johnson. Like, who are their options on offense now outside of Trey? And Trey is not even playing good right now. I mean, hasn't top 40 DraftKings points in like 4 straight games. Just not shooting the ball well. He can't get into a rhythm on offense. Like, Daniels is not really the most prolific scorer on the team. He's really, really good at a lot of different things, but not like a true scorer, like a true shooting guard. And then DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench is probably their best option on offense, even over Trae Young, I would say. But they do have a pretty solid team total, like right there with the Lakers, 114. So Vegas is expecting to put up points. I think Cleveland could really run away with this game. Atlanta's been doing some weird stuff with their injury reporting too, so you don't really know who's going to play or who's going to miss games. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the game where there's no injury news on DeAndre Hunter, and then all of a sudden you don't see him check into the game at all, and then the report's like, oh, he's actually out. So yeah, it's just not a situation I really want to mess with. On top of that, all these guys are overpriced. Like, I'm not paying nearly $10K for this version of Trae Young. I think Okongwu at $7K is like, I'd be okay with it because there's no Capella, but even with Capella out last game, didn't even touch 30 minutes. So you're paying a premium for a guy in a tough matchup where he's not even playing all the center minutes. So it's going to be tough for me to get to him as well. I kind of like Dyson Daniels again. 7.5K is good, and he's about the same from a points per minute perspective as Trae Young, 1.15 fantasy points per minute with Olive Capella, Bogdan, and Jalen Johnson off the court this season. He's a guy that you can rely on for the peripherals. The rebounding numbers have been really good, and he's always a threat to get like 4 to 5 steals a night. He does it against any team, like teams that aren't even turnover prone. He finds a way to get steals. So that definitely raises his floor. So I think that he's probably my favorite option on Atlanta. But I don't mind DeAndre Hunter at 6.2K just because he's going to have to do a lot on offense. That's really all he does is score. He doesn't really add too much with like the rebounding and assist numbers. But it's not a terrible matchup with all those guys out on Cleveland, like the Wades and the Okoros. And they are struggling a little bit more against three-point shooters. So I think that the matchup is probably the best for Hunter. So I'd be okay with him. And then everybody else, I think, is just a kind of a clear X out. Like I don't want to mess with a 6K Vid Crazy. Nance at 4.5K seems too expensive. Reese Shea at 4.1K, where he's not even playing a lot of minutes, is a little bit too much for me. So probably just Dyson and Hunter in my player pool on the Atlanta side. I guess I kind of skipped over Cleveland. I can go to that quickly, but yeah, this is a good spot for all these guys. I like the guards a little bit more, just with the way that Atlanta defends. They're a pretty big on-ball funnel, bottom 3 in pick and roll defense this season. Their rim defense has actually gotten really, really bad over the last month. They're dead last in rim defense with a Kongu down low over Capella. And both Garland and Donovan Mitchell are very drive-heavy guards, so they should be able to get to the basket and put up a lot of points in that area. But they're also, Hawks do allow a lot of catch-and-shoot points. They have been really good with the three-point defense this month, but don't know how sticky that actually is. And then their transition defense is bad. So there's a lot of areas that both these guys could really hit in a big way. I kind of prefer Darius Garland for 800 cheaper at 7.6K. Matchup should be better for him. I imagine Dyson is on Donovan Mitchell, so that should mean Crazy probably on Darius Garland. I think that he has the advantage there. So I like him. I think the bigs are okay. 7.7K for Mobley. Back-to-back, a little worried that he doesn't play full minutes tonight. But, yeah, good spot for him with how bad the rim defense has been for Atlanta. And the same thing for Jared Allen. A lot less opportunity cost paying down for Allen at 6.5K versus 7.7 for Mobley. And Jared Allen's been really good getting double-doubles. 5 of his last 6 games, he has a double-double. And then these secondary pieces I think are good. Jerome and Strus, good match for both of them. Yeah, I don't have anything to say. I think that Jerome is going to continue to play that Karis LeVert role while he's out. So he's good. And then Strus is just playing a lot of minutes right now. So I like those guys.
Man, this slate, like, I think both sides of Lakers-Washington's interesting. It's probably my favorite game on the slate to target. But then we get to this game, like, I have no interest in any of these Hawks. Obviously, ownership's pretty much saying that. But I like the best player, you said DeAndre Hunter, their best offensive scorer, he's still 6,200. Daniel's a big boy price tag. Trey, Krejci, like, none of those. I don't want any Hawks by any means. So if I was not playing any Hawks, would you still be fine with 3 Cavs? Because, like, I could play. I'm good with Jerome, Strus, Garland, or Mitchell, and I'm leaning Garland with the savings, like you said. Jarrett Allen or Mobley. But how many would be too many if you're not playing any Hawks? Like, at the end of the day, they are implied for 115 points. It's a 10-point spread. If this game was 10 points with 7 minutes left, I do think all the starters would be there for the Cavs. And because of the price tags on the Hawks, like, Trey can still get you 48, and which would help them stay in the game and not be on the winner. So would you be good with 3 Cavs? 4 seems a little too much. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think like a decent way to think about it, like if you want to limit how much exposure you get into the Cavs without it making any sense, like if you want, I think you could play 3 without having any Hawks, but I probably prefer on a small slate, like if I'm going to be getting true ceiling games from all those guys, to have a bring back. So if I have 3 of Mitchell, Mobley, Garland, Allen, Strus, Jerome, and I have Dyson or Hunter coming back, I'd be okay with those lineups. But you have to play around with the optimizer, see how, if it's building teams that you actually like, because I don't necessarily know if I want to force that rule, because I do think it's a lot easier for like you could see all of Jared Allen, Strus, and Jerome getting there. I wouldn't necessarily want a bring back if that's the case. I'm only spending like 15, 16K in salary on those 3 guys, and they're all pretty cheap. So you could see all 3 of those guys getting there without having to force a bring back. So maybe if it's two of like the top guys like Mitchell, Mobley, Garland, Allen, then a bring back or something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of it's like I said, the price tags. Like Daniels really has to do something. He can get you 37 DK points, which is fine, but still not be the winner. But that keeps him in the game. Like 45 from Trey, 36 from Daniels, 30 from Hunter. All of them, like they can hit their 115 total. Garrison Matthews will do a little bit, whatever. But because of the tags and relative to others on the slate, it just makes it so hard to click. But I do like your point on like if you're more inclined to bring it back if you're going to Mitchell or Garland, you're spending more salary than the Struce, the Jeromes of the world.
Yeah.
I really don't have much more to add. Again, I hate the Hawk side. I think multiple Cavs, all of them, the starting 5 in play with Ty Jerome as well. But I'd probably keep it at 3. The thing is, I see this. It's a perfect segue to this next game. It's pretty much the exact same for me in this next one. I have no interest in the Utah Jazz. I think there's multiple Timberwolves that are in play. So I'm going to ask you that same question. But first, 5.5 point favorites are the Timberwolves, 225 total. No injury on the Utah side. Pretty big Q tag for Minnesota. Mike Conley's questionable. And again, these 2 games lock at 7. I will be playing some of these first games for sure. So we'll see how much roster flexibility I have. 2 hours later, this game's at 9. If there's no Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I expect to start. Regardless, I think he's going to be owned. There's no doubt about that. He's a great play to have in your lineups anyway. Guard forward eligibility, 3.4K, great value. But it's literally like the same thing in that last game. Ant, McDaniels, Randall, Gobert, Naw, I think all of them are very much in play. Naz Reid maybe, even at low ownership. I hate everyone on the Utah side. So maybe you have a different take. You're the Utah guy. But if you have similar feelings, can you play the 3 Timberwolves, no Jazz? Or would it be like if you're playing Ant, something like that, you want to run back where you'd be fine with Naw, Randall, Nas, or something like that without a run back? So what are your thoughts? It's actually a close spread at 5.5, though.
Yeah, I mean, the Jazz are actually going to be trotting out a real basketball team tonight with Laurie, Sexton, Kessler, John Collins, Jordan Clarkson, all going to be back tonight. It's just, I don't think you need to force it again like in this game just because slightly different situation with Utah because they have bodies. Like they're going to probably run out 10 guys tonight. Nobody's going to play more than like 32. Maybe Laurie gets a 34, but highly unlikely. So it's just a very tough to get to these Utah pieces. I think like the guys I would probably prefer the most would be maybe Kessler and Collins. Just cause I don't really know if like either of those guys are actually. I know for sure they're not actually injured. It's just they're tanking. Collins returned from a pretty long injury absence and then played 26 minutes against OKC. Had a double-double in those minutes, so he's still capable of putting up a big score in shorter stints. And then Kessler, just I think that he's got like the safest floor, but you're also paying a lot of money for him. 7.1K is not cheap. So yeah. For that reason, I don't really think that you want to be forcing any of these Utah guys in your lineup, but those would be the 2 that probably would make my player pool. Maybe Collier if he's starting again, but still, I don't know. This is such a gross situation to want to invest some money into. I think that they're more close to an X out. And just because the game is close, it doesn't necessarily mean that any of those guys have to get there. Like if they're playing so many guys and they're capable of keeping the games close, if anything, that just makes the Minnesota guys a lot better. So I think the Minnesota side is a side I'm going to get multiple pieces of in multiple lineups, probably 2 in most lineups, to be honest, because I just think this is such a great spot for them, especially if Conley were to miss. I think it's pretty easy to get 2 of those guys. I agree with you. I think that NAW, there's his situation can only get better. 3.4K, he's going to be playing a lot with no Dante DiVincenzo. I think he's probably one of the better values on the slate. And then if Conley misses, he's probably closer to like a lock if he's starting, especially in this matchup against the Jazz. We've looked to attack with guards all season long, so I think that he's great. And then Ant Edwards, I think, is a smash play tonight. 9.5K is not too expensive for him, coming off of a really good game, which is a kind of a similar matchup with the way that the Suns play defense or just funnel more scoring to guards. Put up 60 against the Suns last night. Had a massive role this month as well as they kind of moved the lineup around, leading the team in usage, drives, touch time per game. And the same thing, it's just a great spot for the guard. So I like those guys a lot. I think Randall and Gobert are really good as well. 7.5K for Randall looks like it's a really good tag. And then if Conley misses, I think that's kind of sneaky good for him as well because they do use Randall as kind of like that point forward, a little bit more staggered away from Conley. So he would be a very strong option. Then 5.6K for Gobert, who's just playing a lot of minutes. Not really a ton of like true scoring upside for Rudy. But it is a good matchup DVP wise. With the Jazz are pretty good with their rim protection. Walker Kessler been pretty solid in that area all season long, but they're the most turnover prone team in the league. So we could see a game where he has like 3 or 4 steals, has a couple blocks, probably going to play like 34, 35 minutes tonight. I just look back at the numbers against the Jazz because it's been the same matchup every time Gobert has played against them, with Kessler going up against him. He's averaged 31.5 DK points per game. In one of those games, he left like only 5 minutes into the game, so you can argue that the average would be more like the 35-point range. But this will be the second time he's played in Utah as an away player, so I think that he's a pretty solid option. Jaden McDaniels, kind of same reason. I like Gobert, as he could have a really efficient game with steals and blocks and stuff like that. And Jazz are dead last in transition, so that's really good for a guy like McDaniels. Yeah, Naz Reid too. I think all these guys are really good. Probably, I'm still always a max 2 of Naz, Randall, and Gobert, just because they're very. I don't know if they've even shared the court much together at all this season. But one of those guys, like Naz, could close over Randall or Gobert at the end of the game. So you don't want to have all 3 of those guys in your lineups, but would definitely be okay with 2 of them. I guess Dillingham was kind of interesting if Conley were to miss. He already projects decently. He's playing, really, really good right now. I talked about him last week. Like his time's coming pretty soon. Had a good game against Denver. We've been, solid in the minutes that he's played. It's just some closer games have cut down his minutes because they'll just go to Conley at the end of the game to get a veteran presence on the floor. But this could be a spot where if you see Minnesota up by like 15 in the fourth quarter and Dillingham just, he plays a full fourth quarter stint, I wouldn't be surprised to see him with like 25 at the end of the night.
I agree. The thing is, like, looks really, really good. You obviously can play both of them, but we only have one spend above 10K today, which is LeBron, which will be very popular anyway. A lot of good mid-tier stuff too. Then it's like Trae Young. We didn't really like him. Ants of the world. Sengun, Ja. Like, you can find spends, but there isn't the Giannis, like the stars and scrubs. Like, yesterday, I think Rob would have been even more in play. If Conley were to be out, I think Rob would have been a lot better play on a slate like yesterday than a slate like today, when we don't necessarily need all that value. And just looks so strong there. But I think he's fine. Now, let's say Conley does play 4.3K, probably gets a little ownership. Conley's never a guy I really love clicking. 142 piece couple games ago. Otherwise, almost all in the low 20s, high teens. Is that someone, if he was ruled in? I expect ownership would be, I don't know. I guess we got him at 24%. What are your thoughts if Conley does play?
Yeah, I guess for the reasons you mentioned, like if we don't really need to go to Conley as a value, I would prefer not to, because there's just very few times he actually burns you for not playing him. Like if he gets 24 tonight, I think you're pretty happy if you faded him.
I agree. Yeah, and Jason, I do think Naz is a good pivot off of Gobert with some ownership. So I'll ask you this question. Looks like optimals fitting out 3, 4 even Timberwolves. 5 seems a little too much for me. If you're not playing any Jazz, can you play 4 comfortably and be fine with that? If you play like an Ant of the world, like kind of like you talked about last game for D-Mitch, would you want one of these Jazz? It seemed like you only had interest in John Collins. He shot the ball very efficiently in that game. The minutes still weren't great, but I mean, he put up 40 DK points, so he did show he still has that upside. If you're playing an Ant, would you like force a run back? Could you play 4 Timberwolves without any Jazz?
Yeah, I think you can. There's just not enough upside on the Jazz right now, I don't think, for a fully healthy team when they're going to be playing the backups like 20 minutes a night as well. It's just, I don't think you really want to force it. I think you could play 4 Minnesota guys for sure. I would just be like cautious on who those guys are. Like you could definitely play Ant, Randall, and Rudy and NAW. Yeah, like I'd be okay with that. You could do Ant, Rudy, Jaden McDaniels, and NAW. Like that makes a lot of sense too. So yeah, I think you could easily play 4 tonight.
Yeah, and for sure too, like it's how a lot of the stuff will be, because again, there's only one guy above 10K, only a couple above 9. We just don't have the spends on the Jokic's, the Giannis, the Wembys of the world to really spend for. So it'll definitely be probably one stud, more mid-tier, is the value. It's kind of how it's looking right now. Hey, what's up, Colin? Good. You had a good night in the pick 6? Love to see that. All right, let's keep it rolling. 2 games left, Rio. Next one, Very good game. Very interesting game, too. Real life DFS. Memphis Grizzlies, Houston Rockets. 5-point favorites are the Grizz. Second biggest total on the slate, 236.5. Q tags for Memphis side. John Morant, questionable. As far as Houston, Alperen Sengun and Steven Adams, both questionable. Adams missed last game. Sengun did go through shoot around, so I'd expect him to play. Again, this game 2.5 hours after lock. In terms of ownership and stuff, as you can see from the stone, not really much on the Rocket side or the Grizzlies side, but it's the second biggest total. It's a close spread. And again, a lot of these guys have price tags. Fred VanVleet, Amin Thompson, Jalen Green, Sengun, Ja, Jaren Jackson, Bane. But we just talked about all the value on the slate and the lack of spends. So I think this is a game where if you want to make a couple pivots, 2v2s off of chalk stuff, you can look in this one, at least in terms of ownership. Thoughts there? And then someone asks an Amin. Then you can answer this too. I really think you're going to say Amin Thompson. I definitely think it's Amin, but answer this and then break down the game.
Yeah, for sure. Amin all the way. I think it's Amin for sure. I mean, the ownership in this game looks really good. I agree that it should remain in check, and I'm probably going to be playing into this game more than the other ones. Like, I'll definitely grab pieces from LA, Washington. I'll grab pieces from Minnesota for sure. But if I were to choose a game to game stack and have like 4 pieces of, this is definitely going to be the one. I mean, this is a huge game for both teams. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, these are the number 2 and number 3 seed in the West right now, with Memphis being, I think 2 games behind them, something like that. Big game for the division, or for their division standings or conference standings, whatever it is, like the local standings for them. There's a lot of good things about this game. I think that both teams play really fast pace with Amin Thompson in there. The offense has been humming with him. Memphis always plays really fast as well. Should expect Ja back tonight. Should expect Sengun to play tonight. Both those guys went through shoot around. So I just think that there's a lot to like here. From a matchup perspective, Memphis, they're the team that allows a ton of 3-pointers, that catch shoot stuff, because they play run a lot of double teams that lead guards, and that could lead to the lesser players on teams putting up a ton of shot volume. I remember we saw a game earlier this year where it was Memphis versus Boston, and Drew Holiday had like 10 3-point attempts, something like that you just like never really see from him. So I'll dive into that, who I think that would impact the most. But Rockets, on the other hand, playing really good defense overall. The rim defense has been a little bit worse this month, but they played some really tough opponents as well. But they are bottom 2 in pick and roll defense this season, which is kind of interesting. Slightly above average in transition. Memphis is going to want to score in transition. They're the number 1 ranked transition offense in the league. Starting on the Houston side with Sengun set to play tonight. I think that he's a pretty interesting option. The Memphis rim defense actually been really bad this month. They're in the bottom 10. He had a really good game the first time they met. This would be the 3rd time these teams have played this month. He had a 32-point, 14-rebound games, nearly 60 DK points of that one, so the upside is for sure there. But coming off the calf injury might keep him a little bit limited, but I think having Steven Adams miss would kind of sneaky be good for him, because Jock Landale, I mean, he does not fit in with this team. I don't think it's a huge difference playing Adams versus Jock Landale. They're capable of playing Adams like 18 minutes a night if they want to. Jock, I don't think, is very good, and I think that kind of make them want to get Sengun out there for more minutes than usual. But I really like Sengun in a game stack environment. I think he's solid. Amin Thompson, this is the exactly type of game that you want to play him in, a fast-paced game versus Memphis. There's some weird stuff with the Houston guys getting kind of cut down against Atlanta. We're all pretty fired up to play Amin Thompson and some of those other guys on the in that game, and then Amin only played 14 first half minutes. Really weird. But our guy Kai Bush in Discord said he watched the post-game press conference because he's a Houston fan. Said some players were not mentally there. So it's probably talking about Amin and Jalen Green were kind of getting pulled pretty early. With it being a back-to-back, he needed them to wake up. Said he needed a boost, and guys fatigued, and Tate was our best boost. So it was cutting down guys like Amin. You saw Aaron Holiday play a good bit over guys like Jalen Green and Amin. So I'm just thinking that's a one-game thing. He was playing a ton of minutes this month, so I would expect him to get right back up to 40 minutes in a must-win game. Put up 55.25 DK points in the second meeting versus Memphis this season, so he's definitely got the upside. And ownership is more in check than it was last time out. He was like 40% in that Atlanta game, only looking at like, upper teens, low 20s tonight. So I think that's pretty good. In terms of the guards, like Jalen Green, Van Fleet, I always prefer Jalen Green when the prices are this close together. I just think that the pure upside is a little bit more in favor of him. But Van Fleet's probably going to get the softest matchup in the starting lineup. I would imagine it's going to be Ja on him, with Jalen Green getting Jalen Wells or Bane, one of those two guys. But yeah, I do prefer Green for the upside. He had a pretty good game against Atlanta in limited minutes, but he was really good in the 2 games versus Memphis this season. Put up 42.5 and 55 in those 2 games. Played 38 and 40 minutes in those 2 games. So I would imagine something like that for him tonight. Eason will be back. Should cut out Jayshawn Tate. Always have interest in the low-owned Eason just because he's got crazy per minute production. And then lastly, I think Dylan Brooks is kind of interesting. I know it's gross, but we saw him get up a ton of shots the last 2 times Memphis and Houston faced off. He put up 11 and 15 in those 2 games. And if you can run into a hot shooting night, I think he's kind of interesting at 5K because we know he's going to play a ton of minutes, and we know that Memphis is going to leave him open. This is his former team. He knows how they play defense. So that could lead to a lot of open looks for Dylan Brooks. I think he's kind of sneaky in that regard. And then the Memphis side, always tough to invest into these guys because they run so many guys out there. It is a game where we possibly see more minutes from the main pieces. Ja at 8.9K seems a little bit too expensive, but with how Houston gives up a lot of pick and roll volume, could be a decent night for him. It is also worth noting I think it was the second time these teams played, he was listed with an illness tag and missed shoot around. Everybody was expecting him to miss, and then he was ruled in and played a season high in minutes, played 37 in that game. So they clearly wanted him out there for that game. They clearly want to play him a lot of minutes, so maybe we get something like that tonight. But Jaren Jackson, I think, is the best option on Memphis. Price coming down way down at 7.8K, and he's still held up really good usage. Minutes have been strong too. Should be around like 34 tonight. Will be a tough matchup, Brooks on him, but I still think that Jaren's probably the best option at 7.8K. And then like the ED the front court situation. Anytime there's a fast-paced game environment, they try to go away from ED in favor of Brandon Clark. So I think that he's okay at 3.3K. And then Santi is always somebody I keep in the player pool just because he has huge upside. Just randomly, you just don't know when it's going to come. And then Bane, a little bit too expensive, tough matchup. So I think Jaren's the best. I like Brandon Clark, and I like Santi.
I do like that Clark shout, especially what you said about fast-paced games. They go small. The problem is, I guess it's a good and bad. The problem is center, like Joe Val's strong, Gobert is strong, Nas is solid, Sengun, and he just has center eligibility, but that'll keep his ownership down. And again, like we don't need the value on the slate, but always a good point per minute producer is Clark. I like Dylan Brooks for sure. I mean, I buy into that stuff with I recall he had a huge game against Memphis last time. He's definitely going to get up for this game a little more, take a couple extra shots. Definitely buy into that. Amon looks good. He's coming with ownership. I like Jaren Jackson's upside always. Jalen Green, he's the other one. So I'm always Green over Fred VanVleet, like you are. I think the upside's way bigger. Tough for me to get to Ja tonight. I'd prefer going Jaren Jackson. Tari Eason, I like what you said too. Low ownership, solid tag, good point per minute guy. Has a 40-piece upside like he showed a couple games ago. Yeah, I mean, this game's going to be low owned. Like, how many would be too many? Are you going to set a max? Like, with these prices, it feels tough to get even 4. I guess if you're doing 4, like Dylan Brooks would probably be one of them. Brandon Clark would maybe be one of them. Because a lot of guys you like 7,800, 83, 74, 9K. And last thing I want to say, I wish Jayshawn Tate got more minutes. I think he's a pretty good basketball player, but if you have any thoughts on that too.
I hate watching him play. It's like, when who was I talking about? Oh, like Christian Braun. I like him as a player, but anytime the ball you see times when Nuggets are just like they're whipping the ball around, they're passing it, moving
it holds
a lot,
with them,
and then he gets the ball and then he looks, and then everybody's asking for it. He doesn't pass it, and then he does a stupid little dribble move, drives to the basket, and then throws it out. Like that's what Jayshawn Tate does. Anytime the ball touches his hands, it's not leaving his hands.
That's true. He can get to the rim though. He can put the ball in the hoop. But yeah, that makes sense. Thoughts on max? Like how many would be too many in this game?
I would say 4. I think you're pushing it. You're just getting so far away from optimal lineups. unless you just make like you have really, really strong leans on your own projections and you can bump these guys up a ton, which I'm probably going to do tonight because I think that all these guys are going to be on the higher end of minutes, I would say. So like you can probably add like 2 to 3 to everybody's minutes projection. But I still don't think that I want to get like, I think 5 probably feels too much. Like, I don't even know how you'd get to 5 comfortably. Like you'd have to have Clark in there. You'd probably have to have Brooks and then maybe like Ahmed and Green and Jaren Jackson, something like that. Could see that working. Yeah, it feels like too much, but yeah, I would say 4.
I agree. Jordan Poole will definitely be more popular. He projects better. I think Jalen Green's definitely a fine pivot. I assume Rio will say Poole in a vacuum. Pretty much the same thing I said.
Yeah, I mean, in a vacuum, I think Poole is definitely a better play. But if ownership, we're getting Jalen Green a 10th of the ownership or a 5th of the ownership, whatever it is, that's always 5%. Something that I have interest in.
Yeah, 5% versus 29% we have it right now. 5-game slate, ownership matters even more. I think a very solid pivot there. All right. How many minutes would you have GG in there for? Hardly any. I don't think GG's in play.
No, he's there's just too many guys right there now. I think like there's an outside chance that this is a spot where they give him more minutes, just needing more defense out there. But it's still like you're talking about like the 5th option on offense when he's on the courts. I just don't think that there's probably enough upside for him. I was gonna say, yeah, like we always talk about like the not who you play, how you play it thing. Tonight is like a good example of that. I don't think that like straight up I would just play Poole over Jalen Green, but in a lineup that makes sense. Like if I have LeBron and Joval and Poole, that lineup makes a lot more sense than a lineup that has like Jalen Green, Jaren Jackson, and Amon Thompson, something like that. So just gotta think about that when you're building lineups.
For sure. I also like on a smaller slate, I like that matters to me, but also like your cumulative ownership for that team already. Like even if it didn't make as much sense, if you're jamming all chalk and you have no low own play, you need to get different somewhere on a 5-game slate. In a really chalky lineup, I think that is a pivot that you can make. I think you should be thinking about both things. The LeBron, the Joval, if you're stacking the first game more, you expect it to stay close. Poole's probably more of a reason. But if your whole lineup's chalky, I'd be fine taking Poole out for a Jalen Green. If you were to outscore him at a huge ownership discount, you can pass a train. Again, you will see some trains in the flagship on a 5-game slate today. It's not quite a 3-gamer. It's most definitely not a 9-gamer like we had yesterday, though. So definitely somewhere in between.
It's kind of it's like a 3.5-game slate with Atlanta and Utah.
And Utah, exactly. And to be honest, this last game, you look at ownership right here, not too much in this last game either, and I agree with it. Portland Trailblazers, Orlando Magic, lowest total on the slate, 212.5. 5.5-point favorites are the Magic. Injuries in this one for the Orlando side. Jalen Suggs questionable, so that's a pretty big take there. Curious to hear if you have a lean. Portland side, Jeremy Grant questionable, also pretty big. How I see this game, it's really easy. It's mainly like the spends, but the spends are like more mid-tier upper spends. I don't think we need the value. There's clear value in the other spots. Franz and Paulo on the Magic side, I think both are very solid plays, fit more mid-tier build stuff. And on the other side, I mean, I'm going to keep playing Denny. Denny's an absolute monster. I wish I knew he was going to get 38 minutes. I always like playing Denny, though. Could fill up the stat sheet coming off a monster game. Simons is fine. Again, I leaned into the Dame stuff. Against Simons, it was a great matchup. His mentor, all that, he would shoot a little more. It hasn't been great for him other than that. By far, my 3 favorite plays in this game, though. Franz, Paulo, Denny. I'm kind of cutting it off there. Break down this one. How do you see it?
Yeah, kind of in agreement with you there. I think this is probably the worst game environment on the slate, just both these teams playing pretty slow in terms of pace. And Orlando, I mean, Franz could not have returned at a better time because this team is awful this month offensively, mixing in Paulo, trying to get him reaccustomed to everything, and then missing Goga for an extended period of time. Suggs, they're dead last in offensive rating this month, with Portland really not being too far behind them. But defensively, both teams playing pretty good on that end. Been the same thing for Portland all season, or for Orlando all season long. But the Blazers still pretty big rim funnel with Ayton down low, and then Orlando, the pick and roll stuff has been their main weakness. But it's gotten a lot better this season. But also Portland pretty bad with their transition defense. Shouldn't have to worry about that too much. Orlando is dead last in transition offense this season, so nothing too crazy there. But yeah, I agree on the Orlando side. I'm only keeping 3 guys in the player pool, and that's Paulo, Franz, and Goga Batadze. Since Franz returned to the lineup, this will be the 3rd game or 4th game he's been
4th.
back. Okay.
Yeah, minutes have gone way up. 24, 30, 39. I mean, you'd like to see that.
The 39 was the double OT game. So
okay.
Against Miami. I think those double. I know it was for sure in overtime, but it might have been double overtime.
That's where Hero played all the minutes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But still, him to play them to allow him to play 39. Not every organization coach would allow that in his 3rd game back after missing a bunch of time.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have no choice because the options behind him and behind Paulo are pretty bad. So they're kind of forced, like their hand is kind of forced. They have to play these guys a lot of minutes because after starting out the season really, really strong, they've slid and they're, right there below 500, right around 500, falling down in the standings. So they kind of need to take all these wins they can get and just kind of power through until they get to the All-Star break. So this would be a spot where we maybe see more minutes from these guys than usual. But yeah, since Franz returned to the lineup, it's been all Paulo and Franz in terms of usage, the assist percentage, the touch time, all that stuff. Franz leading in assist usage rate 37.6, Paulo 30%. Paulo's first in assists with Franz 3rd, just behind Jalen Suggs, and then touch time is pretty much split right down the middle. Paulo's at 6 minutes, Franz at 5.9 minutes. Both have really good roles, really good prices, really good matchups, with both them being really drive heavy wings. Going to get up against the 6th worst rim defense in the league. So I think they are both very, very strong tonight. And then Goga, I wouldn't be surprised to see him back in the starting lineup. Had the concussion that held him out for like 2-3 weeks, something like that. They just don't really – I don't think that they really value Wendell Carter as much. There was like a time where they were playing him in a blowout just because they were so thin at the front court. But Goga is the guy there, and I think that, one game coming off the bench is probably enough, and I think he gets back to – starting tonight, so I like him at 5.7K. Yeah, I agree with you on Denny though. He's a beast. Really like what we've been seeing from him this season. Chauncey Billups loves him as well. He's kind of always under projected in terms of a minutes projection. Like I always see like around 32, 33 around the industry. But he's been playing like 36, 38, especially in games that are close. Like we've seen Billups willing to let him play close to 40 minutes on a night. This game does have a close spread, really low game total, but it's the spread is close enough that we're probably getting like 36 to 38 from Denny tonight. And if that's the case, he does enough of everything that the matchup really doesn't matter too much. So I think that he makes some sense, especially would make a little sense if you're correlating like him and Franz or him and Paulo, something like that. And then Aiden, I guess kind of have to touch on him, 6.6K. He's playing really good basketball right now. He did have that injury, held him out for like 2 or 3 games, something like that. But returned last game against Milwaukee, and everybody was off. I mean, there was no reason to really think that he'd be a good option coming off the injury tag, going up against a really, really tough matchup as well with how good Milwaukee is with their rim protection. But he played 34 minutes, put up 46 points against them and against Miami, who I would say is another good rim protection team. So I don't know, maybe he's just getting into a rhythm, playing really good basketball right now. So it's maybe he is going to play 34 minutes again tonight and crush the price tag. So I'd have a little bit of interest in Ayton. And then Simons should be a good matchup. I mean, he's second on the team in touch time this month. Staggering him away from Scoot and Shaedon Sharp has led to a little bit more of an on-ball role. He was playing a lot of shooting guard, off-ball stuff, sharing the court with Scoot. But now that he's the starting point guard, it's been pretty solid for him. So matchup's okay with the pick and roll stuff for Orlando being slightly below average. So I don't mind Simons, but never really loved clicking his name.
What about your boy Kamara?
I don't think this is a spot for him.
All right. Fair enough. He's really low. Well, I mean, you see 4%, but 39, 34 minutes, like any guy that plays uppers 30s at 4% on a 5-game slate, I thought. And he's your boy, but 5,500, not a good point per minute guy. Obviously, one of the last options in this offense, so that makes sense.
I mean, maybe if Gray misses, is slightly more minutes going his way. If Gray misses, I think that's maybe I'll get to a little bit Kamara. Definitely not an X out, but I mean, it is kind of tough to overlook how many minutes he's playing right now.
Do we have 80,000 prize pool or above today for showdown content?
Not tonight, yeah. So won't be any showdown tonight.
Hey, you grind hard enough every single day anyway. You got to have a little for MMA. I always keep it real. I love MMA. I love it on Saturdays. But when I do see an off week, it's bittersweet. No MMA on Saturdays, but it saves a lot of time You work hard enough. Hey, little below 80K is not bad once in a while to save some time. There's enough money, 100K up top in the main GPP. There's also night slates. We'll have projections for the night stuff, for showdown content as well. Rio slate plan already up. Like always, you can find that NBA slate plan, core report, Rio, Ham, BJ, cash report from myself, projections, ownership, always updated. Awesome stuff, Rio. Again, tomorrow will be Ham and BJ. Any final thoughts for this 5-game slate?
No, just want to give you a shout out because you've been grinding this week too. This is your 4th show of the week, and you got one more tonight. So shout out to you for powering through. I don't know. It's an okay slate. Always money to be made, so definitely gonna be playing it for that reason. But tomorrow should be a little bit better in terms of the games. I think it's a 7-game slate tomorrow, 9-game slate, something like that. So should be a pretty good one. I appreciate everybody tuning in for us, and it was nice this first Thursday show of the year. Just realized, so nice to get that one out of the way.
Yeah, and so we'll be on Thursdays. Any game, 4 games or more, Monday through Friday, you will see us on the SHIPIT Nation YouTube channel, at least 2 faces on the channel. Now that football is winding up, NBA's in full force. Again, no better time. NHL going on, NASCAR in 2 weeks, PGA full force, showdown content always big as well, MMA as well. We also do have, I don't talk about it enough, education videos. People that are just getting into NBA or PGA or NFL or any of these, education videos. NBA one, 2 hours. We talked. Hoop, Tambo, myself, a whole bunch. If you were looking for live finals, qualifiers, we talk about cash, questions, or hour and a half it is, talking NBA. So much on this. We do pride ourselves, not just, hey, go look at Rio's core today. If he loses, you lose. If he wins, you win. That's not what we want. We want you to build your own process. Education videos definitely help there. Again, projections, ownership, tools for many sports as well. Good stuff, Rio. Always love talking ball with you. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. Rio, Ham, BJ. You'll be in the Discord, though. Good luck tonight, everybody. Someone up there from SHIPIT. Let's win 100K. Let's see those logos up top. For Rio, I'm Titletown. Be safe. Peace. Good luck.